because every star has a story to tell. Yoon Seok-ho, the timeless master of Korean romance. When you think of the golden age of Korean dramas, one name immediately comes to mind: Yoon Seok-ho. He is not the most prolific director, nor the most public figure, but with only a handful of works, he shaped the soul of modern K-drama and touched millions of hearts across Asia and beyond. This is the story of his life, his career, and the lasting legacy of a man who turned seasons into poetry and love into timeless television. Early life and beginnings. Yoon Seok-ho was born on the 4th of June, 1957 in Seoul, South Korea. Unlike many directors who dreamt of cinema from a young age, Yoon's path was more subtle, shaped by culture, art, and an enduring fascination with the human condition. He began his career at KBS, Korean Broadcasting System, where he worked his way up in the television industry. At a time when K-dramas were still seen as mostly local entertainment, Yoon had a vision: to create stories that could resonate universally, stories about love, loss, memory, and longing. His early project, Invitation 1999, gave audiences a glimpse of his sensitivity as a director. But the world had yet to witness the masterpiece he was about to deliver. The Breakthrough, Autumn in My Heart, 2000. In the year 2000, Yoon Seok-ho directed Autumn in My Heart, the drama that became the foundation of the so-called Endless Love series. It was a tragic love story filled with longing and heartbreak, starring Song Seung-heon and Song Hye-kyo. The drama was not only a hit in Korea, but also resonated strongly across Asia. This was more than just a TV show. It was the beginning of the Hallyu Wave, the Korean cultural movement that spread across the world. Yoon Seok-ho had found the perfect formula: emotionally rich stories, beautiful cinematography, and unforgettable music. Winter Sonata, A Cultural Earthquake, 2002. Then came Winter Sonata in 2002, and nothing would ever be the same. Starring before anyone else, Young Jun and Choi Ji-woo, the drama became a phenomenon, particularly in Japan, where it sparked what is often called the Korean Wave boom. Winter Sonata was more than entertainment, it was a cultural bridge. Japanese fans traveled to filming locations in Korea, tourism flourished, and the drama even inspired concerts, merchandise, and a devoted fan base that remains loyal decades later. What made Winter Sonata special? The snow-covered landscapes, the gentle piano themes, and the haunting story of lost love and rediscovered memories. But above all, it was Yoon Seok-ho's delicate direction, his ability to translate raw emotions into moving images. Even today, Winter Sonata is considered one of the most important dramas in the history of Korean television. The 4-season series. Yoon Seok-ho's vision was to complete what became known as the 4 seasons tetralogy. Autumn in My Heart, 2000, Sorrow and Tragedy. Winter Sonata, 2002, Memory and Longing. Summer Scent, 2003, Love and Remembrance. Spring Waltz, 2006, Rebirth and Youthful Innocence. Each drama was tied not only to a season, but to an emotion, a metaphor about life itself. The cinematography captured nature as if it were a character: falling leaves, blooming flowers, snow gently covering the ground. And every soundtrack became a classic, carrying the emotions of the story far beyond the screen. This series remains Yoon's signature, a poetic collection of love stories that transcended language. Later works expanding his vision. After the 4 seasons, Yoon continued to explore the themes of love and fate. In Wedding Dress, 2009, a short drama, he returned to familiar motifs of family and sacrifice. In Love Rain, 2012, starring Jang Kyun-suk and Im Yoon-ah, he bridged 2 generations, showing how love echoes across time, from the 1,970 seconds to the present day. And in The Wind in Your Heart, 2017, his first film for the big screen, Yoon brought his romantic vision to cinema, telling a story of second chances and emotional healing. Although not every later work reached the monumental success of Winter Sonata, each carried his unmistakable touch: delicate visuals, lyrical storytelling, and a focus on human vulnerability. Personal life and philosophy. Unlike many of his contemporaries, Yoon Seok-ho has lived a relatively private life. Little is publicly known about his family, and he rarely appears in the spotlight. This sense of mystery only strengthens his image as an artist devoted to his craft. What is clear, however, is his philosophy. For Yoon, dramas are not just entertainment. They are reflections of universal emotions: longing, regret, first love, and the passage of time. He once expressed that he wanted his works to feel like poems on screen, simple yet profound, rooted in everyday human experience. And in this, he succeeded. Legacy and cultural impact. The influence of Yoon Seok-ho cannot be overstated. With fewer than 10 dramas, he achieved what many directors could not in decades of work. He brought Korean television to the world stage. He turned locations like Nami Island, featured in Winter Sonata, into global tourist destinations. He made audiences cry, hope, and remember their own first loves. Internationally, his work paved the way for the global acceptance of K-drama, long before streaming platforms made them accessible. In Japan, he remains almost legendary, with fans still revisiting Winter Sonata as a cultural touchstone. Seasons change, Years pass, new dramas rise and fall, but the emotions captured by Yoon Seok-ho remain timeless. With just a handful of works, he became a symbol of love, memory, and beauty in Korean television. For fans around the world, he is and always will be the director who turned the 4 seasons into eternal love stories. This is the legacy of Yoon Seok-ho, a true master of romance and a timeless voice in the history of Korean drama. Yoon Seok-ho is more than just a director. He is a storyteller who taught us that love can be timeless, that beauty can be found in the quiet rhythm of the seasons, and that a single drama can touch millions of hearts across generations. But what do you think about his legacy? Which of Yoon Seok-ho's dramas left the deepest mark on your life? We'd love to hear your stories and reflections in the comments below. And if this video reminded you of those unforgettable moments from Winter Sonata, Autumn in My Heart, or Love Rain, don't forget to share it with friends, family, and fellow drama lovers. Many people know the actors, but few truly know the man who created the soul of these masterpieces. Subscribe to our channel for more stories celebrating the icons of Korean cinema and television, and let's keep the memory of Yoon Seok-ho's artistry alive together.